Communicating with stakeholders for me personally is still built around talking to people, which I think is critically important, that you do build personal relationships by either meeting with people or at least talking to them on the phone. But obviously we use the whole suite of emails and all that sort of communication tools. We are starting to think about social media. We're not a retail organisation, so I think the important thing for us is, it goes back to my earlier comment, not using tools or communication channels simply because they're available, but using the ones which are effective for us with the people we need to engage. And we're still coming to terms with that to a degree. The only social media that we're actively using would be things like LinkedIn when it comes to recruiting. A lot of our people here are on LinkedIn. We don't really use Facebook, the Twitter, although as the communications manager or corporate affairs, I do use Twitter and Facebook and that sort of thing. And in the last few months, I've really learnt the value of Twitter in terms of monitoring what's going on in the industry, because a lot of other people are using Twitter. And I have found it is by far the most immediate and quickest way I'm finding out what's going on in our industry, is by following the right people on Twitter. Contingency planning for us goes back to a bit like crisis management. The best thing that we can do is to work on our reputation and our relationships every day and make them as strong and as effective as possible. Then if something goes wrong, at least we can draw upon that, draw upon our good reputation, draw upon the trust from our stakeholders, and then communicate on the issue that may have been raised through social media. No such strategy, because we don't have those social media tools as such running as a business. So I think we sort of lean heavily on making sure we look after our reputation and relationships.
Technology is very interesting for us. It's very important to what we do. A big part of communication with our stakeholders, and I guess the key one that we're referring to there is our clients. The thing that we'll never be able to get away from, that's the best for us, is to pick up the phone and talk to our clients and actually talk to them face to face. That is, talking face to face over a phone doesn't quite work, but talking to them on a phone so you can actually talk around what it is that you're trying to achieve. There are a number of other things now, like social media is an interesting one that we're grappling with now, what that means for us. Stockbroking, financial planning is traditionally a very, it's an industry that is a bit older in terms of having to deal with things like social media. What that means in a rapidly changing world, how that fits into sort of dealing with a client with respect to their financial needs is difficult. We haven't quite come to an answer on that, but technology is constantly changing for us. We are having to consider those things. We haven't got an answer yet, but it's something that's on the agenda for the next little while. We do. We're exploring things like Twitter, what that means for us. I guess what we're struggling with is what content. See, in the finance world at the moment, if I take a step back in time, 15, 20 years ago, people had to come to professionals like us to get access to information. What happened? What were the key events in the US that happened yesterday or last week, and what impact did they have on companies in Australia? You couldn't really go anywhere to get that information. Whereas now, everyone has an iPhone or some type of smartphone where they can, within 5 minutes of waking up in the morning, people have got access to what happened the day last night, where a currency is trading at, everyone seems to be a Greek bond and an Italian bonds expert at the moment, and a currency expert. So everyone's got access to all that information. So the challenge for us is, what content do we include on social media that clients wouldn't already have access to? We're struggling with that, and we haven't really got an answer to that, because I think content is easy. It's easy to throw content out there. I think the challenge for us that we haven't quite got an answer to yet is, what is the right content, and what is it that people actually want to see and is useful? I'd like to say we did have a contingency plan, but we're still struggling with that point of how we're going to use it. On a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of usage, we're probably at a 1. So we haven't got that far yet to have a plan around how we deal with the negative effects of what's sent out, which comes hand in hand with using it more, I think.
Certainly email has taken over the world, and I think less people are talking on the phone less, but we do try to talk face to face and by phone. But our computer system perhaps is a bit more outdated than others, but we've just gotten some new computers so we can do GoToMeeting, and we've just got some fabulous new programs that we're just starting to get into. So, and obviously there's the introduction of the Palm Pilot and the iPhone, so you can be emailing from everywhere at any time, day or night. I mean, in the old days you used to leave at whatever time at night, go home, come back in, and there'd be no emails. And now everyone's emailing all night. So yes, and from all around the world as well. So it's we talk to, on the corporate side we use Twitter, and on the consumer side we're very active with Pinterest and Twitter, Facebook, Foursquare, so get quite active. We deal with it on a case-by-case basis, but we normally deal with it quite swiftly, and we haven't had too many major incidences. We have had some, not so much with social media, but we have had some incidences with publicity where things have gone awry. With Best Job in the World, for example, at the very beginning when we released an example video, it didn't say example, and then the media found out that it was an example, and they caused a bit of a ruckus. But we put that in place immediately, saying we've made a mistake, we should have said it was as an example. It was so yeah, we just have to deal with it swiftly. That's our motto usually.
Well, I suppose in the past you might have used direct mail. We have about 30,000 people on our Friends of Merlot database, which we've worked on for a long time, and we work hard on that. And we used to use direct mail. Of course, now it's a bit easy to use email, but really, you can't buy a cappuccino online, so it's great. You still have to have that one-on-one, and so those personal relationships are important to us. Social media, I must say our marketing girls are much better at it than me. I don't have a Facebook or Twitter, but they're awesome with it. And so we do get lots of responses. What's interesting is we have our own Facebook page as a company, but we don't use it as a advertising medium. But we have it just as a knowledge thing. But what's interesting is since we opened ours, we've noticed there's 7 other Merlot Facebook on there, and of course they might just be groups of coffee drinkers from one of our shops who call themselves a Merlot group, and I find that intriguing, but it's just interesting how it works. Well, that's right. I think in the past, if you had one bad experience at a place and you told someone, they'd tell 7 people, and those 7 would tell 7, and it just spread that way. But these days, if one bad person gets on Twitter, that one bad experience can cause a catastrophe of bad press. So I don't know how or what you do. You just got to try and run a great business, and I think that's really how it works.
Well, technology is magnificent and so instant, but if not carefully handled, dangerous. So I believe that, again, there needs to be rules around such things as emotional messages handled by email. It's a very simple human rule, and what is an emotional message? People have to think about that. But if you're going to deliver bad news, pick up a telephone. And don't text it, don't email it, and don't leave a message. So the person-to-person communication, I don't believe, in terms of value, can be replaced necessarily by digital communication. But digital communication is just wonderful. I mean, I pick up all the various things and think, it's just amazing. And you remember in my lifetime, it was the old black telephone, and then came in the old fax, and now you can send something instantly and get a reply. And that to me is amazing. So we make use of every possible technology we can in the organisation, and there are people there far more equipped than I to do so. As a matter of fact, I showed one a Wi-Fi password this morning, and they said, "Oh, I can hack that." And I thought, wow, we need to be so careful to keep up to date. So organisations have to be up to date with all sorts of communication techniques and technology, or they will be hacked into. They will find that they are in trouble because they haven't managed it. So we have data managers and IT managers, and amazing how much that now takes up. So I've never seen an IT initiative that removed people from employment, which is what we all were terrified of years ago. Oh, the computer will come in and so won't have a job. Well, that proved to be so much rubbish, because I think IT creates employment. Well, we've had to keep up with it. The pharmacies run Facebooks. There's been a couple of pharmacies come to grief with people using Facebook for the wrong thing. Staff members have to be very careful. So we have a very clear social media policy, and every organisation worth its salt would. But social media is just part of ways to communicate these days, ways to advertise, ways to promote, and we have to be on top of it.